In this video, we'll be discussing and demonstrating how to use field activities in crop season inside of FieldAgent Web. They're used to be able to monitor and track your activity throughout the season, and then as we get towards the end of the season, it allows us to work through a predictive yield analysis based on a kernel count. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to set it up, and then we will talk through the various different activities that one can go in there, and then we will quickly talk about the kernel count as we come to the end of the year. So the first thing you'll do is launch FieldAgent Web, and you'll go to the field in question. And I have my field up already to make it easier. And down here at the bottom where it says Field Activities, there is a plus sign. So each year you would start a new activity, or each growing season you would start a new activity. So if you have 2 growing seasons a year, obviously this can support that. So or if you just have the one. So we're going to click on the plus sign to start a new growing season. And I want to actually create a whole new season. So I'm going to go to this Add Field Activity and Add Crop Season. And it's going to want me to fill in some information. So a start date. Now the start date can be when you planted, or if you did any preseason activity like laying down fertilizer or something like that. That certainly could be your start date also. I'm just going to put a start date in here for tomorrow. And then our end date. I know the crop that I have has a 96-day maturity range, so I'll just go ahead and calculate that out. I should put it about here. And then my crop type, I'm going to grow corn, and I can certainly give it, I have to give it a name. So let's call it Spring Training 2022. And then I can also start with an activity at the same time. So I'll go ahead and start with planting. And then here I can put in when I did my planting, which is tomorrow, my seed rate, and how many seeds per acre am I putting down. So I'm planting corn, so I'll go with 34,000. And then I changed it to seeds per acre. The number of acres, which is going to be defaulted based on the bounding box of the field boundary. So if it's going to be less than that, you'll need to make some changes to this portion right here. Otherwise, you can just leave it well enough alone. If you want to document the seed variety, you certainly can. We do need to have a row spacing for stand count information and tassel count information later on in the season. So I'm going to put in my row spacing of 30 inches. And if I want to put in maturity group, I certainly can document that information too. I'm going to leave it just with the very basics here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on submit. So I've created a new field activity for the season inside of FieldAgent Web. Now it does a couple of things besides just let me document when I planted or when I irrigated or did a kernel count. When I turn on field activities, it turns on the notifications for FieldAgent Web. These notifications go anywhere from disease, growth stage, NDVI changes, and then to weather information. So you'll get this throughout the season. The disease notification is based on predictive conditions within the field, where a disease might be ripe for being present. It doesn't mean that that disease is present. It just means that it's ripe for it to happen and something for you to keep an eye out for. You can turn these on or off too. So if you don't want to get a notification on something, you certainly can turn off the notification in any one of these. If you don't complete the harvest at the end of the season in field activities, you'll still get the notifications because it doesn't know that you completed harvest. So something just to kind of keep in mind. And I'll show you how that works here. We're going to go back to FieldAgent Web. So we're going back into Randy's place. And so we've turned on notifications. So as the season comes along, I will get notifications right here. I will also receive notifications via email so that I know that it's, something's taking place if I haven't had a chance to log into FieldAgent that day. Now, as the season moves along, I can document different activities in my field. So the first activity that I want to be able to document is going to be irrigation, right? So if I have a pivot field and I want to irrigate, I can come in here and indicate the date in which I did the irrigation. And I'll just pick a date here for training purposes. Indicate the number of gallons per acre. So let's say it's 1,100. And then how many acres are in my field, and I click on submit. And now that's been documented. And that's also taken into account when looking at the various different notifications that come into play with your field. Then as the season comes to an end, we can go back into the field and document our predictive yield based on kernel count. How that works is, again, we come into field activities, we click on the plus sign, we click on the new activity, we go down to kernel count, and then here we can go in and document when we did the kernel count. And again, this is just all training information, so I'll go ahead and say that I did the kernel count late May. And then, so how many rows do I have in my kernel? So what's the collar, right, on the kernel? So let's say I have 30, and let's say I have 90 for my row length in the collar, and I can go ahead and add up to 150 different ears of corn doing my kernel count. And then at the end here, then we can look at a predictive yield inside a FieldAgent based on that information and have an idea of the number of bushels per acre that we should be getting out of FieldAgent Web. If you have any questions about field activities in FieldAgent Web, please feel free to contact us at support@sentera.com. You can also telephone us at 612-204-2000, or feel free to check out our support site by going to Sentera.com and clicking on support.